It's Wednesday, May 28th, and that means it's Declaration Day for the YieldMax weekly funds as well as Group C. So again, thank you for joining the ETF Inspector. A little update, we're at 476 subscribers, almost halfway to the goal of 1,000. And like I said, this will be the video for YieldMax's weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund. So big picture, ULTY closed today at 624, down a fraction. Mostly red day, as you saw by the thumbnail. The biggest winner on the day was Oklo at 2.49% increase. So it's never a good day if your biggest winner is 2% in a high volatility fund. And Mara is the biggest loser at 9.61% loss. Also want to mention that I am on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't have it pulled up here now, but ETF Inspector. I announce when the videos are coming out, as well as I repost or retweet, whatever you want to call it, the YieldMax distributions and posts that they make. All right, so big picture, if you're new here, we go into everything that happened within the fund, all the trades, all the holdings. So this is just a breakdown of day by day how your money is making money. So most companies, you buy stock in, you can get an idea reading financial statements, but still to know where your money goes. In these funds, it's literally the dollars come in, you see how the dollars get spent, buying shares, selling shares, buying and selling options to make money. So you know on a day-by-day basis how much money got made or lost. So that's what we did this video. So it's just going to seem like a whole lot of data or information thrown at you, but that's kind of the point of it. So if you get to know exactly what happened with your money. And obviously stick around till the end. If you get tired of all the data, there's a dad joke at the end just to try and make you laugh or smile or something. So we'll start with ULTY. Trades today, it wasn't an enormous trade day. Decent amount though, a lot bigger than yesterday. Handful of trades. So what we did, closed out calls that were sold for coin at 275 and rolled to next week at 270. Overall, $154,000 to the positive between buying to close and selling to open. Mara Holdings, same things, closed out this week's calls, paid 14 cents to close them, so that's a nice win. Sold next week at the same price for 56 cents. Bought a slightly lower put to go with it, so paid a little bit less for it and made about $156,000, so similar profit to coin. MicroStrategy, there were a couple of different positions that were options that were going on, so they were closed out at the 410 and the 420 and open next week for all at 405. Overall, $109,000 win or profit. Palantir, closing out their 131s. I think they have a couple strikes. We'll see later. But closing out their 131s and opening 132s for next week. Another win, $42,000. SMCI, closing their $47 strike calls and opening 45s for next week. For some reason, I thought I remembered a June 20th. That must be LFGY. But they made $60,000. And TNA, that's the triple leveraged small cap bulls, closed out this week's 3250s and sold 3050s for next week. They actually have two different sets of options there, so this is just one of them. 88,000. So all wins today. That brought us to a grand total of $611,000 profit in trading today. I did mention it's declaration day. I kind of forgot I wanted to start there. But so ULTY came out, our guess was 9 cents. The IV estimate was 9.3 cents. I should have stuck with that because that would have been a little closer. So if you have ULTY, you're getting 9.54 cents per share, and I missed by 5.66%. So not as good as last week's 2% miss, but still not terrible. And one thing to remember or to keep in mind as we move forward, they actually lost over 6 cents trading last week per share, and they just paid us 9. So if we get some weeks where we make a good bit over 9, we're going to expect to still get around 9 or get around the IV, because they paid us obviously more than they made, because they didn't make anything last week. So just keep that in mind. Before we go into the holdings, we'll try to do real quick, just take a look at all the declarations. So for the weeklies, LFGY was the highest one, a little over 49 cents. Comes out to a 64% annual yield. Chippy, 38.6 cents. That's a 39% yield. You've got the 3-0 DTE funds. Those are RDTE on the Russell, QDTE on the NASDAQ, and SDTY on all these on the S&P. They got 35, 31, and 25 cents, paying 41%, 38%, and 30%. YMAG, 29.29 cents. That's a 97% yield. That's a nice one. GPTY. Somebody asked if I cover them. It's just too small of a fund. It takes a lot of time every day to put all these together with all the trades. So 28 cents, 34% yield. YMax, I'm in that one as well. 21.49 cents, or an 81% yield. Can't beat it. For the Group C's, Carvana's fund was the biggest one, paying out over $4.56, 123% yield. Coney was the next biggest yield, 110% with 73. The one that covers Robinhood, Hui, $3.30. That's a 70% yield. I have video on NFLY, MSFO, and AMDY coming out after this one. So they paid 68, 54, and 42 cents for 46, 53, and 70% yields. PayPal's was 55 cents, 53% yield. Airbnb's was 38 cents and a 41% yield. And Fiat, I believe that's the inverse on the crypto. I'm not positive. 26 cents or 63% yield. All right, back to your normal ULTY coverage. All right, so as far as update goes, right, almost everything was red, so it's going to be an ugly day for our holdings. AI lost 3.76% to 2302, a change in market value of negative 300,000. Those calls are now over 10% out of the money, looking like we're going to win a lot of trades this week. AST Space Mobile lost 0.25% to 2478, $28,000 loss. Calls are still almost 5% out of the money. Coinbase, we talked about it. They rolled these to next week, so no need to talk about these. And everything holdings-wise will get updated tomorrow morning. CoreWeave, I believe this is the only one. Nah, there's another one. Still in the red. But this was a good day. So if they would have jumped on closing these out just because their calls got blown through, they'd have paid a lot of money. So they, with today losing 6% and them not closing them out, these calls are going to get a whole lot cheaper to close out between time decay and value of the stock dropping. So a down day was good for CoreWeave. It cost us $938,000 in value, though. So these calls are now 5.2 and 3.5% in the money. Dell down 0.19 to 113.77. Calls at 120 or 5.5% out of the money. $15,000 loss. And as usual, right, these aren't realized losses because they didn't sell the shares. So this is just change in value. I'll just say loss just to speak quicker. First Solar down up almost 0.5% to 156.45. The calls are still 8.6% out of the money, $32,000 gain. Hims and Hers down a fraction, $4,000 loss. 53.34 was the closing price, and 12.5% out of the money on the calls. Robin Hood down 1.33 to 65.14. Calls are 2.86% out of the money, $190,000 loss. IonQ down 1% even, 47.56. Their calls are still 1.1% in the money, so another one. It's good that they didn't close it out. It's working in their favor. $156,000 loss. Mara Holdings, this was the one that hurt the most as far as almost a 10% loss, almost $1 million loss in value, 1486, and they rolled these as they got even farther out of the money. They became cheap to close. Let's see real quick. So they started the day costing 76 cents to close, and then things got better for them. So yeah, they closed them for 14 cents. So pretty nice difference. Marvell up 1.2%, 64.59. The calls are still 3.73% out of the money, almost $100,000 gain. MicroStrategy, all these got closed out, so we don't need to talk about them. They went down 2%, 364.25. Obviously, they were way out of the money, so they were very cheap to close, but a $300,000 loss in value. NVIDIA went down 0.5% to 134.81. Still 6.8% out of the money on the calls, $89,000 loss. The biggest winner of the day, Oklo, up about 2.5% to 55.24. That took these calls just in the money, 0.43%, and the value went up 400,000. So hopefully, even if we just get a couple flat days, these will get much cheaper to close out. Palantir up 0.3% to 123.76. They closed out the furthest out of the money call that they had sold and rolled it to next week, obviously because it would be the cheapest. $48,000 gain. Reddit up 0.77% to 105.43, $81,000 gain. Calls are still 1.5% out of the money. Rigetti lost 0.2% to 14.16. They have calls 5.9 and 9, almost 9.5% out of the money, a $19,000 loss. RH lost 3.27% to 183.85, 6% out of the money on the calls at 195, $127,000 loss. SMCI up nearly 1% to 41.96, a $52,000 gain. These options got rolled the next week, new strikes, so we don't need to talk about them. Snowflake lost 0.9% to 204.40. Their 210 calls are still 2.74% out of the money. They lost $87,000 in value. TNA, we talked about this. The farther out of the money ones got rolled to next week because they were nice and cheap. They lost 3.14% today. $29.30 was the closing price, $346,000 loss, and the closer to the money calls are still 2.3% out of the money. The other triple leveraged fund, TQQQ, 1.28% loss to 70.03, $222,000 loss, and they are 2.8 and 4.2% out of the money still. Tesla lost 1.65%, so another one that is good that they didn't close them out because they were over 2% in the money. Now they're only 0.5% in the money. 356.90. We need them to get to 355 for these to have no intrinsic value. $275,000 loss. Upstart lost 1.36% to 47.01. Their calls are 1 and 3% out of the money at 47.50 and 48.50. $143,000 loss. Vertiv Holdings down 0.5% to 109.22. Again, another one. It was in the money, so it's good that they didn't close it yesterday because time went by and the price dropped a little. So these are getting cheaper. $41,000 loss. They're still 1% in the money, and their other ones are 0.7% out of the money. So they really played those tight. As retire on dividends will say, tight, tight, tight. Vistra Corp down 0.92% to 162.36, $105,000 loss. That brought these just out of the money, so that was helpful to not close them. 0.09% and 1.6%. So we had, I think I said, a $600,000 gain in trades. That's realized, and an unrealized loss of $4.2 million. Outstanding shares remain the same, 54,750,000. The NAV and the net assets won't update until tomorrow morning's holdings comes out. I'm sorry, I don't want to make this video real long, but somebody asked where you find this information. So real quick, if you go to YieldMax's website, you go up to our ETFs, and then you can just select. So the monthlies are all in these covered call ones. ULTY is in this Ultra, and then LFGY is here. So then once you click on it, I don't need to because I'm already there. You scroll down. There's two separate downloads that come out every day. The intraday trades come out. Obviously, they have to wait till after close. It's generally 5:30 or later sometimes. So you click on that, 5:30 to 6:30, and then the next morning, you can click on the download all holdings, and it's all the updated things with the correct closing prices and where the options prices all ended the day. All right. Let's get back to, so that was everything with ULTY. Let's get into LFGY. Big picture, their biggest winner was NU Holdings with a positive 2.18%. Where is it? Right there. And their biggest loser was GameStop with a over 10% loss. And getting into LFGY, I mistakenly, when they sold shares of Coinbase yesterday, I told you we were done talking about them. After going over everything again today, I found out that they have a very large position in Coinbase, over 15 million. They only sold a little over $2 million worth yesterday to open the Galaxy Digital trades and positions. So we are not out of Coinbase. We're still have Coinbase. They just sold a little bit to buy a different stock. Okay, so sorry about that mistake yesterday. Okay, trades for LFGY, they're a whole lot smaller, so we're not going to sit and go through individuals because they end up being for very small amounts of money, sometimes in the $100 range. So we'll just look over big picture. Clean Spark closed some this week, moved some to next week, made $3,500. Coin, all they did was sold a little bit more calls for this week, $630. Core Scientific, same thing, just sold some more shares. Sold some, not shares, options, more calls. $1,300 gained. Galaxy, that's the one they opened yesterday. They sold some more calls on them, $2,000. GameStop, they sold and bought, right? So they sold calls. So they did a call spread, a credit call spread. Sold at 38, bought at 46, made $2,300. Robinhood, they just sold some more calls, $1,200 gain. Hut 8 Corp, again, sold some more calls. That doesn't make sense. So they're just trying to scrape some pennies. I mean, they sold $1,850 call for this Friday for 3 cents. I don't know. You agree with taking a risk to make 3 cents? Mara, or Mara, however you say it, similar, sold more calls, $1,300. MBTX, this is the one where they don't hold any shares, they only trade it. And they just sold a little bit more to go along with the position they already have, 6,800. MicroStrategy, or just strategy, closed out this week, started next week's $89,000 gain. NU, that was the biggest winner, but still they were able to close out and open new next week, $52,000 gain. NVIDIA, $1,000 gain, just selling some more for this week. Opera, selling some more for way out, June 20th, $1,200 gain. PayPal, $700 gain, just selling some more for this week. More calls. Everything's being sold as calls. Riot made $2,300 selling more calls. Tesla made $1,400 selling more calls, and XYZ, or Block, made $192. So grand total, $169,000 in profit made trading today. Also, I was way off. I would call it way off. Where'd my percentage go? I don't know what happened. I had another thing here. I think it was like 20% off. What? Something's not right. I think I must have hit a line. Hold on a second. Hold, please. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Unhide. Yeah, there we go. So my guess, so they made 97 cents in trades per share. They profited 97 cents last week. So even though their IV said it should only be around 51, since they made 97, I guessed 60. Well, they paid the same old 49 they've been paying. So I missed it by 22%. I was way off. Somebody actually called me on it in the comments before anything came out. Said no way they're paying that high. They always pay around 49. But I thought when they made practically double that they were going to pay more. But it just goes to show maybe there were a lot of weeks where they didn't quite make 49 and they paid it to us anyway, and they got to recoup from those. So that's my only guess. And if they're holding some back, we'll get it. It'll help. So BitDeer lost 4.6% today to 1430. Their calls are now 8 and 11% out of the money. Clean Spark lost 7.6%. $220,000 lost on BitDeer. $388,000 lost on Clean Spark. Their calls are now 9.7 and 31% out of the money. Coinbase lost 4.5% to 254.29. Their calls are 11% out of the money. $684,000 lost. So it's kind of nice that they cashed out some Coinbase yesterday before it lost another 4.5% today. Core Scientific lost 4.4% to 1078, 6.6 and 11.3% out of the money on the calls. Looking like we're going to win a whole lot of trades this week. $266,000 loss. Galaxy, that's the new one we just started yesterday, lost 6.26% or 131,000. The calls are 22% out of the money. GameStop lost over 10%, 31.21. Calls are way out of the money, 16 and 21%. Probably see those get closed out tomorrow and rolled. $628,000 loss. Robinhood, 1.33% loss to 65.14. That's an $82,000 loss. Their calls are now 4 and 9% out of the money. Hut 8 Corp lost 8% to 15.54. $458,000 loss, 19% out of the money. Again, I think we're going to see a whole lot of these real high percenters get rolled tomorrow. They don't do any options on iShares Bit Trust ETF. They just have the shares. So they lost 2.74% to 60.79. That's a $317,000 loss. Mara Holdings, 9.61% loss, 1486. Their calls are now 11% out of the money. Then we have MBTX. They don't own shares. They just trade it. Closed at 253.21. I don't know why. We don't show compared to the previous day because they don't hold the shares. But but their calls are 2.6% out of the money, and we saw that they added more to that position. Mercado Libre, MELI, lost a fraction to 25.50.71, keeping them still 1.9% out of the money and $9,000 loss. MicroStrategy lost 2.14% to 364.25. Calls are now 12 and 13% out of the money, $266,000 loss. Under $1 to close these before the day started, and it lost and time decayed. So we're probably going to see these get closed out for small change tomorrow. NU Holdings gained 2.18%. This was the big winner, if you can call it that, 12.20. Still 2.5% and 6.5% out of the money on the calls. $95,000 gain. NVIDIA lost 0.5%, 134.81, 5% out of the money on the calls, $15,000 loss. Opera 1.62% gain to 18.16. Their calls are still over 10% out of the money. They only started the day 12 cents to close. Probably see them get closed tomorrow. PayPal lost a fraction to 71.44, $1,800 loss, 0.78% out of the money. Riot Platforms lost 8.32% to 8.38. They're 13% out of the money. We'll probably see them closed for pennies tomorrow. $424,000 loss. Tesla lost 1.65% to 356.90. That actually helped because these were in the money. And look, these were in the money and were going to cost $10 to close when the day started. So now we're one day closer to the expiration, and we're back out of the money. So that's going to be a great job not closing them out. $97,000 lost. And finally, Block lost 0.5% to 61.81, $15,000 loss, 5% out of the money, for a grand total of $4.7 million lost on the trading day. LFGY closed at 39.70, and again, if you've got them, you're getting your roughly 49-cent dividend. Today was the last day you could buy. Tomorrow's X date, so the price will drop at open. So it'll drop by 49 cents, but it won't show it as a loss. The new even 0% will be 49 cents cheaper at the start tomorrow. Same goes for ULTY. Same goes for all the funds that are paying out tomorrow on their X date. All right, so that's everything. Thanks for watching. If you stuck around, appreciate everything. Get lots of comments every day. You guys are very encouraging, so I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, please click the button. It helps me a lot working towards my goal. So, all right, dad joke of the day. It's not the best, but it's off the calendar. I just tear them off each day. So, what piece on the playground is always exhausted? The tire swing. I don't know which video it was. I just told one recently that was about why is a bicycle exhausted, because it's too tired. So kind of got those two a little close together. All right. Hope you did well trading today. Hope you do well trading tomorrow. And stick around. I got another video coming if you're into any of the individual income funds that I cover. Thank you. Good night.